Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jan Smith, and I am the Executive Director of SOMOS. And it's my pleasure this afternoon to welcome Reginah WaterSpirit, who I believe is the co-author of the book, The Bear is My Father. And she's going to be telling us some stories today, as well as reading some excerpts from the book. She'd love it if you put your video on so that she can see your face at least while she's reading, but then she's going to leave some time at the end where people can unmute and either make a comment, ask a question, or speak to her directly. So with that, welcome, Reginah. You're zooming in from Albuquerque, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I am.
Okay, well, welcome to the Zoom SOMOS Salon.
Well, that's quite an honor, I think, for anybody, but especially for me. It just feels very honoring. And I want to thank you, Jan, and also the people at SOMOS and the publisher who's been so supportive of everything, getting this book published. I actually want to start off. Well, let me just say a quick shout out and thank you also to Rob Rauchi, a longtime friend of ours. Bearheart performed his wedding ceremony. He handled some of the technical stuff for me and communications with SOMOS and other people and made this very possible for me. So I wanted to just say thank you to Rob. And there's so many people that I would say thank you to, but I think that would take an hour and a half and then no reading. Why does the screen keep popping up and saying iPhone? Is that an advertisement from Apple?
Oh, Reginah, that is somebody who's zooming in on their phone.
Oh, okay. It just comes in quickly and disappears, so it's not a problem. Well, you know, I'd like to give a little background as to how this book came to be and how I became an author, because I know a lot of people who come on to do readings are the kind of authors that produce, you know, several books. Well, I became an author because the day that Bearheart's original book came out, The Wind is My Mother, he was reading it out loud to me, and he said to me, you know, I have a lot more to say. I said, well, Bearheart, you know, you can just keep on going. He didn't really write it. He voiced it, recorded it, and then we had it translated and put into print. I said, well, you can just keep telling stories and we'll see what happens with the second book. So we actually started this book around 1996. And here it is today because of Synergetic Press and their good friend, Jerry Patchen. So that is how I became an author. And I do have several stories in the book. I teach art therapy techniques, so writing is not foreign to me, but this is my actual first professional book. So Bearheart had a great sense of humor. He was known for his intellect and his sense of humor and his connection with spirit, I could say. And in this book, The Bear is My Father, there's a whole community that we open the door to come into the book to share their own experiences with Bearheart, myself included. And I do encourage people to get to the very end of the book. It's not a very big book, it's a little small book like that. And because there are some magical things that happened after Bearheart passed in 2008. Before I go any further, I'd like to know if Glenn Perry and Mike Three Bears have their microphones unmuted. Are they unmuted?
Yes.
Now they are.
Okay, good, thank you. So I'm not going to introduce them right now. We might say a little something about them in a few minutes, but Mike Three Bears, of course, was very close to Bearheart, knew him, and Glenn Perry did not, but has a connection that happens in another time and space, let's say. One night, while we were creating this Bear is My Father book, which was named right from the beginning, because the Wind is My Mother, Bearheart's mother was actually of the Wind clan. And the Bear is My Father, it was natural to name the second book The Bear is My Father because his father was the Bear clan. So one night we were having a very romantic dinner in a kind of a, I don't want to, let's say an elder's favorite spot in Rio Rancho. And I think it was New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve. It was a special night, maybe Thanksgiving. And Bearheart, he liked to get dressed up. So he was wearing his suit and tie and everything. And he noticed that there were a lot of elderly people in the room, and they were all very, very polite, you know, and the waitresses, waiters were very polite. Everybody was very polite. Well, there's something about Bearheart that when he sees things being a particular way, he has to jump in there and somehow throw a pebble into the water and make some ripples. And I felt it coming, but I had no tools in those days to work with it. So I don't want to sound like a victim, but I knew right then and there, because I could feel my vulnerable selves coming up, that something was going to happen. And sure enough, he said to me, the next time the waitress comes over and asks us if we need anything, I want you to turn to me and say, please pass the salt. And I'm like, really? Okay. So she comes over, and I was so nervous. I turned to him and I said, please, please pass the salt. And no, I have this backwards. Oh, he's laughing his head off because I'm telling the story wrong. He's the one who said to me, please, he was telling me what to say when he says, please pass the salt. And so he said to me, I said to him, please pass. Oh, hey, Mike, who said what to who? Anyway, I'm supposed to answer when he says that, please pass the salt. I'm supposed to say, get it yourself, you old goat. Well, you can imagine I mean, I was brought up in a kind of civilized environment. And you can imagine how that felt to me. I mean, I don't even think that the waitress really got what was happening there. But 2 years later, at my mother's house, and that was Thanksgiving, all of a sudden, Bearheart says to me, please pass the salt, in my mother's house, which was a very formal setting. And by that time, I had been through the ringer with him. So I looked at him and I said, get it yourself, you old goat. I'm having too much fun here. Okay. One more little tidbit here. Bearheart had a daughter, adopted daughter, Shelley Morrison. She was a pretty famous actress. She played the Puerto Rican nun with Sally Field in The Flying Nun. And then she did a lot of other things. Beverly Hills Cop, she was famous for We Don't Need No Stinking Badges. So Shelley, we were at her house, and I was fairly new to these ways, but she had been around Bearheart on vision questing and sweat lodges for a very long time. And I said, Shelley, I gotta tell you, I don't like 99% of the people who come to see Bearheart. They would come to our house. I said, they are the most self-centered, egotistical, non-giving people on the planet. And she says to me, Reginah, she's a pretty enlightened person. She said, Reginah, why do you think they come to see Bearheart? I was like, oh my God, I have some of those qualities myself. And I'm attached at the hip to him. I mean, he was attached at the hip to me too, but that's a whole other story for a different kind of program. So I'm telling you this because a lot of people had a lot of projections, and I guess they do, onto spiritual leaders, holy men. And I really do believe in my heart that Bearheart was a holy man. Of course, I had a different relationship with him, but the fact that I can talk about him as a human being, I think is valuable, especially for younger people who may get caught up in, worshiping others. Because Bearheart saw everybody as a somebody. You know how sometimes you'll hear somebody say, oh, that person's a nobody. There were no nobodies in Bearheart's world. Everybody was a somebody. And he treated everybody equally. He prayed in the White House with President Truman. He was invited in for a couple of minutes. He stayed 20 minutes. I guess they were both Baptist ministers, so they had a lot in common, and he prayed with President Truman. Well, I have a feeling that you might like to hear about Bearheart directly from the book. And I'd like to read, I may not read the whole part, but I'd like to read a little bit of the introduction from our very good friend, Tim Amston, who was the editor of the book, and he wrote this introduction. Bearheart was a man of contrasts. Although he was not physically large, his presence and sonorous voice filled the room. He was highly educated, but his words, like the fundamental truths they carry, are clear and simple, He was a Native American who grew up in a world where he and his ancestors were subject to persecution and prejudice, but he never projected anger or resentment, only forgiveness and peace. As they said about Will Rogers, he loved people. He never met a man or woman he didn't like. Today, we need his counsel. There has never been a time when the spiritual principles of Indigenous people are as essential for the world, for living in harmony with each other and the living earth. Fortunately, we have the spirit and words of Marcellus Bearhart Williams among those of other Native people to help point the way. Bearhart's broad education and participation in the wider world of cultures and ideas makes him unique among Indigenous medicine people. He studied for 14 years under two medicine men of his tribe, had an undergraduate degree, a divinity degree, actually he had two divinity degrees, with a major in biblical Greek and an honorary PhD in humanities. He was a World War II veteran and served for 7 years on the advisory board of the Institute of Public Health at Johns Hopkins, where he represented Native American people. He prayed with President Truman, spoke at the opening of the Smithsonian Native American Museum, and gave spiritual counsel to firemen and their families after the Oklahoma City tragedy in 1995. He served on President Bush's faith-based initiative panel for the US Department of Health's When Terror Strikes conference in New York, and put down prayers with police and firemen at Ground Zero in New York City. I was there. That was amazing in many ways. Bearhart gave the keynote speech at the World Shamanistic Conference in Garmisch, Germany in 2000. He traveled extensively throughout the US and internationally, lecturing, healing, teaching, and learning and sharing his gifts. He was a roadman in the Native American Church, an American Baptist minister, and a multi-tribal spiritual leader. He spoke in 14 languages, 13 of them native. His first book, The Wind is My Mother, was translated into many languages, I think over 14 languages, including Chinese, Korean, Japanese, and I got it published in Hebrew. This book was first written before Bearhart passed and shelved. Then after his death, it was re-edited and expanded. It is a three-dimensional portrait of Bearhart through the eyes of Reginah WaterSpirit, his co-author, wife, and medicine helper, and others whose lives he enriched. It is also the story of a beautiful and unlikely relationship between one of the last traditionally trained Native American medicine men and a Jewish woman who was born in New York City, that's me, and created garment-related businesses in Southern California. Well, we won't get into that. The lives of my wife, Lucia, and I were deeply enriched by the many years we have known Bearhart and Reginah. Years ago, they honored me by asking that I edit this book in its original form, which I eagerly did. And I agreed again when Reginah asked me to edit it in its current iteration. With great help from Lucia and Reginah, it has been reorganized and expanded with the inclusion of much more material, so it can better serve as an expression of the legacy of this extraordinary and unique human being. In my own writing, I have occasionally felt as if the spirit of someone else were there with me, guiding my thoughts and my words. but never as consistently as with this work. I could almost continuously sense Bearhart pushing me along, saying yes to this and no to that, and hear his warm chuckle. Hopefully you will feel him too. Then there's an editor's note telling you when you know Bearhart is speaking. We tried to keep the book so that 80% of it is Bearhart. Well, that was Tim Amston and the introduction, which I thought was beautiful. Also, I won't start reading it, but Bev Doolittle, prolific artist, friend of Bearhart's and mine, wrote the foreword, and that in itself is, I think, worth getting this book. At this point, I would like to ask my brother, Mike Three Bears, to come on and read his portion, which is very brief, but if he feels like he'd like to continue, he might read some of what Bearhart has to say on the same subject, which is vision questing, because Mike Three Bears, who lives just north of Taos, was authorized by Bearhart to lead vision quests, send people out to seek a vision for their lives and other reasons. And let's see, Mike, you're open and ready to go?
Well, my sense of humor following Bearhart would be to say no, but that's okay. I'm ready. I thought about starting out and invoking Bearhart because his presence is always, but that's what Reginah did. She brought him in and I could feel him here. I want to tell a little Bearhart story. This is set the stage to agree to something she talked about. After he passed, I guess I'll tell a true story. After he passed, we did 2 sweat lodges in Taos. And the first one was a kind of a traditional sweat lodge. The second one, we started telling Bearhart stories, and we went round and round, and everybody came up with all these wonderful stories. And there's always a sense of humor about them, because that's who he was, and we all appreciate that. My part of the book, I wrote about the vision quest, and I actually wrote that back 17 years ago or whatever. And I didn't change it. I was offered the opportunity to change it, but I left it like it was. And I want to tell another short Bearhart story. When we were in Taos doing a sweat lodge at Mary Murphy's River Song Ranch, we had the lodge there, and he was sitting there talking, and all of a sudden his chair goes over backwards, and he flips over and he just gets up and gets in the chair and keeps going. Well, that's a great story because he didn't get hurt or anything, so we can talk about it. But then at one of the vision quests, I was sitting next to the fire, the sacred fire that keeps going all the time, and the same thing happened to me. I went over backwards and then got up, sat down, and just kept going. And then someone who's passed on that but was close to Bearhart was Michael Scott Scudder, also from Taos, and he had the same thing happen. So we have a tradition of doing this thing. The other thing I want to mention was, she talks about I always thought he was this great big guy, and then after he passed, she gifted me one of his. Someone needs to mute a little bit. It's just a little bit difficult to talk over. Anyway, gifted me one of his shirts, and I put it on. I said, "This is almost too tight," because he did project this great big voiced person and full of love. I asked it. He was our speaker at the Gathering of Circles, and the first one we had in 1998, first speaker, and then we pulled together the 5 speakers for the 10th anniversary. And I asked Reginah, so what's Bearheart going to speak about? And she said, you can put down anything, because no matter what you say, he always spoke about love. And there's no wonder that I'm tied to someone like that. I really, my spiritual tradition is about love, about human love, divine love, because I experienced that in 1990 and I got on this path. Well, I met Bearheart in 1995 and did sweat lodges with him. In section 4 of the book, chapter 11 is about the Sundance, chapter 12 is Vision Quest, and chapter 13 is the Native American Church. And I've done all those with Bearheart, but really Vision Quest is what I relate to. And I, like Reginah said, I was authorized in 2004 to lead Vision Quest in Bearheart's name, which is a big deal. I mean, and I've done that once or twice a year since, because, and I want to go into the book and talk about some of the sections before mine, and read those actually. So chapter 12 is Vision Quest, and I'll read this. This is from the book. This is Bearheart speaking. Today, vision quests are used mainly to find direction in our lives. They usually last up to 4 days and may involve many questers who go out at the same time, each to a different location, a solitary spot. People often find a personal power symbol on their quest, like an animal or plant, and afterward may be given a name by the quest leader. In a vision quest, you don't eat or drink, no food or water. When you are fasting, you empty yourself so you can receive something from above, something to motivate you, inspire you, guide you in a way that you should go. That's the purpose of a vision quest. I think that's important to understand the background. The continues on, and this is Bearheart. When I first get to the vision quest gathering spot in the morning, I put down an offering of tobacco. The fire that will burn throughout the quest has been started. The rocks for the first sweat lodge are heating, and the questers go out and find their individual places. As they are looking, I pray for permission to use the areas the questers will use. There's several key things there. The key to any of this is sacred space. And what he's saying is, I create a sacred space. I put down tobacco. I pray for the people that they may have their quest safely, but also so that the animals show themselves, or they get input from the divine. So that's kind of part of the basis. Another thing that Bearheart asked is, he gives them, there's 4 questions. The first is, who am I? Why am I here is the second. The third is, what are my gifts? And the last question is, what am I supposed to be doing? And those, a lot of people come into a vision quest, but they're at a crossroads. Should I take a new job? Should I get a divorce? But the best thing is being open to whatever creator spirit provides. And these questions may promote that. And it may be in your dream time. It may be while you're sitting there with no food and water. But what Bearheart would say is, those deepen the experience, no food, no water, but they are not the source of the vision. Okay, again, talking about sacred space, I'm looking to read another quote in the book. Throughout the night at 10 o'clock, 10 p.m., midnight, 2 o'clock, and 4 o'clock, I smoke a pipe for each one out there. I pray on the Milky Way. It is the star nation, which is made up of those who have gone on. I ask them to watch over the people. I pray that they'll be safe and have good communication from on high and meet the things that will be helpful to them. I pray for each one of them 4 times during the night. And that's really, again, sacred space. The vision quest is done under the pipe. It's one of the 7 sacred Lakota ceremonies that are done under the pipe. And that makes it the highest level, to me, the highest level that I can attain in my prayers. One last of the Bearheart quotes is, when you send people out on a vision quest, you're making it possible for them to be close to the creator. I keep a prayer in my mind asking the Creator to send down a vision, a new concept they hadn't thought of before concerning their lives, the direction they should go and how they should go about getting there. And that's kind of the background of it. I guess even though I was asked to read my part, I don't know that I want to get into that. I want to give Glenn some time and then have some other time. Now, the Vision Quest, I've Vision Quested in Bear Heart's Way. I've put out about 140 people total over the years since 2004. So I have a big, inventory of experiences with it. But I've also Vision Quested in the Lakota Way, and I've supported the Apache Way. I've supported it in the Lakota Way. I do it the way that I think will help the people. I try and keep to the Bear Heart form. I know we've got some of the people here from the Earth Tribe, and they have their own forms that they use for Vision Quest. And one of Bear Heart's teaching is honor the local altar. Honor the local altar, which means it's all good. And whatever is done locally, you do it that way. You don't go and say, no, that's wrong. I just came back from Silver City. I spent a month down there and did 2 sweat lodges in the Lakota Way. And I didn't do anything, didn't say a lot the first one because I didn't know what their basis is. The second one, I went ahead and filled my pipe and did it in their way. But they're different. And again, all of these things may be like in the Lakota, it may be different for each of the reservations, for each of the communities. But if you say honor the local altar, the other key teaching that as a base for me is intention overrides form. What's the intention? Why are we doing this? And the Vision Quest, people send me a letter of intention, and then that's what we proceed from. But then their experience out there is key. I guess I don't really, like I said, I'm not going to read what I wrote. It's in the book. One other key thing I want to talk about is one word that's really important to me is beyond. Because what's beyond this book? How do you get beyond? You can read the stuff, that's what I'm trying to avoid reading it. But what's beyond? I started with what's beyond wisdom. And I know what that is in my mind. I'm not going to, but see, the word beyond doesn't tell us anything. It just leads us there. What's beyond unconditional love? And I have my definitions of that, my direct experience of that. But I think that's an important thing. Any of these things we do, if we take what's been done before as a template, then we need to stretch ourselves.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. There's so much. That's a lot. That's a lot for us to take in today. And I really want to thank all the participants for hanging out with us. We like to share all the good fortune that we've been blessed with by being able to spend so many years around Bear Heart. Now, Glenn Perry, a good friend of all of ours, he did not meet Bear Heart directly in this lifetime. I once was taking a walk with my dog in Corrales, and I see this guy sitting in a little office all by himself with a bunch of books. And I went in there and I was like, because I like education, I love books, and anybody who looks like, they've got something to share like that, I gravitate towards them. So I went in and I was giving him the 3rd degree, I think. And he was nice, but non-committal. And I don't know how long that was before he started the Seed University here in Albuquerque, which he's retired from now. He's a full-time author. He's an authentic author. But I'll let him speak for himself about how he feels that he did connect with Bear Heart. Because when I talk to him, I forget that he didn't know Bear Heart in person. So says a lot about time, space, and beyond. Hi, Glenn.
Thank you. Thank you, Regina. Bearheart, he's right behind me, or at least an image of him. And behind me is a wall of ancestors. So you might call me an ancestor worshiper. But there's people like Bearheart that I feel are living ancestors. And what I mean by living ancestor is that they didn't go anywhere. They're still very much vibrating in the hearts of the people that they touched. And sometimes it's beyond, talking about beyond, Mike. Sometimes it's beyond the people that they met in this lifetime. They just continue their work in the spirit world, which is really connected with this world. It's a thin veil separating. And people have known this for a very long time. So, I'm just very grateful, beloved Creator. I just want to put down a little corn pollen here. And first of all, I'm grateful to Reginah WaterSpirit and Mike Three Bears, and every one of you that are on this call, because you were called in somehow to connect with the spirit of Bearheart. And that is one powerful spirit. One powerful spirit. For whatever reason, I have no idea, but I became, yes, very good friends with Reginah and Mike Three Bears. Mike served on the board of Seed that Reginah referenced for a number of years and helped us enormously, helped us plan a massive conference, The Wisdom from the Origins. And Regina's been very supportive and a dear person in continuing the spirit of Bearheart, as she's doing with this very important book that Synergetic Press has published. And really what Tim Amston said in the introduction, I think is very, very important and needs to be emphasized perhaps more. This is a very special book, because I'm an author, but any author really does their work with a great group of people. But most of them end up presenting a book, or perhaps as Jan knows at SOMOS, they come in and they're presenting it from their perspective. But what we have here in The Bear is My Father is a very unique book, because this one really does act as a living ancestor, because the people who are, even though it's been 20 years plus in the making, the people who are contributing, like Mike, like Reginah, and like several others, in addition to Bearheart's clear voice that comes through, you have a ecosystem of people that have been touched by Bearheart. This is really unique. That's very special. It's kind of almost like a sacred ceremony, the book. It's been called together. And I think that's how it will touch other people when they read it. And that itself is a beautiful thing, because his presence is here. I'll just tell one little story, and then I'll turn it back over to Reginah, because I don't have the staff. She has it probably here. But Reginah, this is a similar kind of staff. This was made by Ruben Medina from Taos. Reginah, do you have the Bearheart's staff with you?
I do. I'll get it in a minute.
Okay, get it in a minute, yeah. But when my first book came out, Original Thinking, 2015, Reginah, right before then, for some reason, told me that I'm going to have you caretake Bearheart's staff. And Bearheart's staff used to be the staff of Wilma Mankiller. That staff had a lot of power before it even came to Bearheart. And I, of course, said yes when she offered such an honor. And I put that staff very, holding, Reginah is holding it up now. And I put that staff by my bed and I went to sleep. And then I had what I thought was a dream, a very vivid dream of the staff flying, the eagle flying. And then I woke up and the staff came down to the floor. And that was not a dream. The staff was off the floor. So that's just an example of the power of mind over matter that can be created from the beyond. And that's why we feel the presence of Bearheart so strongly, even right at this very moment. And we honor him and invoke his presence. And we also honor and invoke the presence of all the ancestors that brought us here to this moment in time. And not only the ancestors of the people, the ancestors of the flowers, bees. We had to have the trees that breathe out. We had to have it all to bring us to this moment in time. So it is an incredible blessing to be alive and an incredible blessing to be in the presence of Reginah, Mike, and all of you here today. So thank you. And
Thank you, Glenn.
thank you. Love
Well,
on.
I think our audience can more appreciate why I called my brothers on to say a few words here. They muted themselves, but I might have to call them back for a couple of questions. One time I was sitting in a little restaurant here on Central Avenue with Bearheart, and his silver turquoise bracelet went flying off of his wrist and out across the restaurant. It landed on the floor. Some lady picked it up and brought it back to him. And he looked at me and he said to me, somebody close in my bloodline has had an accident. And I'm like, yeah, you know, this victim mentality, you know, because I'm more of a art therapist, psychology type person. So I'm going to analyzing, you know, and but the look on his face, you had to respect that. He was very concerned. So we finished our dinner and went home, and in those days, we didn't really have a cell phone. I think it was more like a pager thing. And he got a phone call on the house phone that his sister had driven her car through the garage door. And she was actually okay. But so that was just one small lesson for me of about judgment. You know, there's so many different cultures, and now I have learned there's a couple of men on the show here. My good friend Jonathan Fine has taught me so much about other cultures and other ways of thinking, and that people just, oh my God, it's like, it's so huge, but all of you have been exposed to that, I can tell. But I was new at it. And then we also have Stephen Sachs, whom we call Mukit, because that's a Sufi name. He's an international Sufi teacher, senior teacher here in Albuquerque. And he also has studied with a lot of Native American elders he never really studied with Bearheart, but he used to come up for lunch and sit with Bearheart. And he's a man who wouldn't need to have a conversation to learn anything, operates on a whole different telephone line. So he wrote a poem for me to describe something about Bearheart. And I believe if I ask him to unmute himself, he will unmute himself and read you this short poem. Good evening, Mukit. I'm so happy to see you.
Great to see you. Good to be with everybody. It's a great afternoon. Yes, it's a pleasure to spend time with Bearheart. I wish I'd known him younger and had more time, but what I had was very good. And reading his stuff, wow. Yeah, so actually I can read that one, and I can read one other about him.
Okay.
Bearheart, fancy dancer, medicine man, peyote roadman. You taught us to perceive with the four winds of seeing, fearlessly working with the introspection of the bear, that we might become who we really are, to do our small but essential part for the transformation of the world. And just thinking about Bearheart's assistance. As the river of life carries us increasingly through the difficult times of the transformation of the world, Bearheart has played an important role in helping many of us, individually, in groups, in seminars, and through his books, translated into many languages, to navigate the rapids of change so we can become more fully who we really are, to do our part in bringing the world to beautiful flowing waters. Oh,
Mukit, as usual, that is so beautiful. Maybe we could, we do a pipe ceremony with Mukit almost every single month. And I think we should plan some more where we get to listen to him talk more. Mukit, thank you so much, so much. I'd like to read Pat Embers is from Manhattan, Kansas. And first of all, I have to tell you, I have some blood relatives on this call. And that is an unusual event in my life. One day I woke up and I said to Bearheart, I said, you know what? You're not the only one that has blood relatives. I have blood relatives. They're just not, they don't talk to each other as much as your blood relatives, but I have them. And there's one on, I'm not going to bring him on to talk because I might not be able to get him off, but he's one of my loving cousins, Steve Manoff. And he's on the iPhone, so you can't see his, well, I see his picture, but you can't see his name. But he's a very sweet man. He lives on close to the water in Southern California. I love you, Steve. Thank you for being here, cousin Steve. And any other cousins, because I'm not sure I'm seeing all the pictures of everybody. Pat Embers is a community leader in Manhattan, Kansas. So we used to go there a lot. There's a place called Council Grove, where I understand that some of the tribes came together to have council. So every year they do a Wisdom Keepers 3-day ceremony where they bring in native elders who share some things from their tribe, some indigenous wisdom. And I asked Pat to write something because she was so close to Bearheart, and this is what she sent me. And it's under the title, it's on page 82, and it's under the title Community Spirit. Manhattan, Kansas is just a dot on the map, a small university town city surrounded by rural towns, country homes, and farms. We tend to live close to the earth here. Some of us try many things on our land and in our homes to help restore Mother Earth and ourselves. And we have shared and progressed with each other over the years. We were ready for good medicine to come our way when Grandfather Bearheart arrived in Manhattan on July 11th, 1999. Over 75 Kansans welcomed Bearheart and stayed for his weekend workshop held at a local community building. On Sunday and Monday, over half of them participated in Bearheart's sweat lodges at the Blue Heron Llama Farm in the surrounding Flint Hills. Willow cutting, sweat lodge construction, and firekeeping were done in Bearheart's way. We worked spontaneously in the woods, at the pond, and at each other's homes with food, prayer ties, and ceremonial objects. Throughout it all, Bearheart stressed the importance of community and us gathering here, sharing ceremonies that we have continued to do over the years. He spoke to our hearts and told us he felt at home as he prayed for life and healing, reminding us that healing is 80% our ability to receive and 20% the medicine person's role in bringing spirit into our lives. Spirit can only bring true healing to those who are ready to accept it. To know and care for ourselves and all our relations is our purpose here on Mother Earth. Wow, to know and care for ourselves and all our relations is our purpose here on Mother Earth. Boy, I'd like us to get that message out and have it be received. Vision quests were held that helped us better know our spiritual, this little bird is preventing my movement here, our spiritual selves. Our community bonds were strengthened as we realized how much we wanted to share this journey with each other. Bearheart returned many times after that first weekend. Things have not all been rosy over the years. It has taken patience, hard work, and understanding to move forward together. It has been worth every bit of effort as we became a more harmonious and committed earth-based community within the context of our various lives. Bearheart brought wonderful teachers with him. We were especially grateful for Reginah WaterSpirit, who was with him as a medicine helper and close companion. She has been our dear friend and a great teacher of her voice dialogue methods. Our visions have expanded over the years. Sweat lodges are appearing on other lands in the community. Bearheart has authorized some of us to lead the Pawnee Sweat Lodge ceremony and trained one of our elders as a Vision Quest leader. Grandfather Bearheart's love of his family in Albuquerque was ever present when he visited. When he was here in Kansas, he was near his tribal Muscogee Creek Nation in Oklahoma, and we know how deeply he felt for them. His laughter, spontaneous advice, singing, and drumming were huge gifts to us. Through all his teachings ran the thread that we can get through difficult times if we hold to the truth and work together. Perhaps the most central trait of Grandfather Bearheart was his harmonious love for all mankind and all creation. When we set out on our vision quests, he reminded us that even ticks were teachers. Is that possible? They teach us about our attention, and indeed they did. He reached out to people of all races and beliefs, all walks of life. As an elder, he spoke from his heart and told it like it is. He was a genuine storyteller of life's lessons. He opened a path and brought spirit into our lives. Grandfather Bearheart, to this day, continues to be a blessing. And here's a little picture of him dancing. I'm gonna do something totally spontaneous here. And if I get told off, I'll just be gracious, I guess. What else can a person do? But I see I have a spiritual sister here, Sheila Safer. I don't want to make her nervous, but she is a right-hand person. Can you unmute yourself, sister?
Yes.
Oh, there she is. I don't want to put her on the spot because this is not planned, but let me just say a word about some of the things she does in life. She is like a right-hand woman to Dr. Will Starhart Tagle, who was very close to Bearheart, and in fact started the what's called the Earth Tribe, a group of people who love the earth. So Sheila handles quite a bit for him. And now in this last year, Dr. Starhart is actually in hospice. He calls it camping out at the big door. And I would like Sheila to say something about her experience. This is unplanned. Her experience of the kind of love that exists between Will Starhart and Bearheart. Because I myself, I mean, I knew about it, I witnessed it, but just recently from his sharing from his bed, camped out at the big door, like I said, I've even been more touched by that relationship than ever before. Would you be willing to say something, Sheila, about that, your observation?
Sure. My observation is that, thank you, and thank you, Reginah. Thank you for asking me. I'm happy to be spontaneous here. My observation is that there was great respect and love, and even though they didn't agree about everything. So Will's pretty clear about that. He says they got in bonding patterns and they disagreed and they took time off from each other for a while, but through it all, they really loved each other and they had respect for each other. And Will told a story today about his total connection and love with Bearheart. And what I've witnessed is that Bearheart comes to him in the dream time and communicates with him. And just recently, I've had the honor of working on a beautiful quilt for Dr. Tagle, and then also repairing a beautiful quilt of Bearheart's. And some of you may remember Bearheart used to wrap himself in a quilt, and it was like a morning star quilt pattern. Well, now Bearheart's quilt is the quilt that Will wraps himself in. And I helped my friend repair this quilt, and we brought it over to Will and presented him with it. And he had gotten a message in a dream about that Bearheart would help him, that he wanted the quilt to actually lie on top of the quilt and in doing that, it would help Bearheart be able to assist him more in his transition process. And so today, when we saw him on Zoom, he was wrapped in Bearheart's quilt, and very touching. Bearheart is remembered by a lot of the people in the Earth Tribe with so much love and so much respect and so much gratitude. I personally did not meet him in person, but he has come to me in the dream time. And so I'm very grateful for that. And he shows up like randomly. Something will happen and I'll just go, oh, hi Bearheart, look at you, you showed up. Total surprise, total like out of nowhere. But for Will, I think they have a deep, deep respect like brothers. And I think, and that's beyond, it's beyond time. It's beyond time, it's beyond space. It's in the eternal now. And it's very clear to us who are witnessing that both Bearheart and Judith, Will's wife, who passed in September, that these two ancestors are really available now to assist Will in walking through the big door. And yeah, that's how it feels. And Will talks about it. I mean, he has conversations with them. He communicates with them. He knows that they're there to assist him. And we in the Earth Tribe take comfort in that.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot about.
So thank you.
Thank you, Sister Sheila. She's been a very big help to me in so many ways. Well, while you were speaking, Sheila, I found on page 157, which is very close to the end of the book, something that Will Tagle wrote. We probably should give a little bio on him, but let's just say he's a very educated person, faculty on a couple of universities, and vision quested with Bearheart, and out of that was born the Earth Tribe, which has been an intentional community, inclusive, like you wouldn't believe, and successful. Will Tagle says Starheart, we call him Starheart. For over a decade, Bearheart journeyed to Houston to spend extended time with me. At the time, Judith, that's his wife, and I lived with our two daughters in a big white house in a vibrant neighborhood in the heart of Houston called Montrose. Bearheart loved sprawling out on the couch in our living room. One late spring night, after we had been together as guides in an early Earth Tribe vision quest, he spoke to me in Creek, Muscogee, in a booming voice, saying, "Faswa in Halsewa." Then, when his laughter filled the large room, I jumped in surprise. From our many conversations, I knew this laughter was a harbinger of a deeper message, and that he was calling me by a name he said came from the sacred mystery as part of my vision quest early in our relationship. He used the name to disturb my status quo. Remember, I said he liked to disturb the status quo. I didn't say it exactly that way, but that sounds good to me. And as a point of emphasis, it is loosely translated as bird medicine. At other times, he seemed to translate the name as winged medicine, a description that resonated with me. When he spoke in his tribal language, I tuned in and paid close attention. He continued, Everybody belongs to a clan, sometimes several clans. The purpose of the clan is to let you know that you belong. You are never alone, and the clan is there to assist you with who you are, your true identity. Your first clan is Vaswalti, the bird clan. I'm also of the bird clan. The winged ones can take you up in the sky, past the arm of our grandmother toward grandfather's son, Hase. Pretty soon, you will find Hase Inini, the path of the sun. You live in a culture where loneliness and a sense of being estranged is everywhere present. Well, don't we know that today? Your patients are depressed and anxious because they don't know that their clan brothers and sisters follow them around just over their left shoulder. It's funny, the mainstream drowns in a sea of loneliness. What you called alienation the other day. All the while, their clan is there to help them see just how connected we all are at the deepest level. We feel lonely, but we are never alone. Let's go outside under the stars. I'm going to teach you a song that can lead you to Hasi Inini. It is a Comanche song to the eagle. Mike Andrews, do you know how to sing this song? Queen of Yoe no Yana Hey.
I can sing along in the group, but I don't know how to sing it, put it that way.
Okay, I'll give it a shot with you. You can join in, Glenn, if you know this one. Queen of Yoe no Yana Hey.
Hey, hey.
Queen of Yoe no Yana Hey.
Hey.
Queen of Yoe no Yana Hey.
Hey.
Not wanna.
Wanna,
Hey, you
hey,
wanna.
you
Hey,
wanna,
hey,
hey,
yo,
hey.
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 I should have asked Sheila to join in. How do we do, Sheila? Okay. Bearheart looked up to the stars, and I sensed he wanted to tell me something more, as if he was receiving a hidden variable from the splash of stars visible even in the night sky of an urban setting. The flap of wings lead you higher to sun's path. His words deeply resonated with me, yet I could not translate them into my life at the time. Time cycled through a couple of decades. 2 years after he stepped through the big door to travel beyond the stars, I lay beside a lake in a vision circle. The stars reflected off the waters and reached into my heart, and I knew that was what he was telling me that night, that he taught me to fly with the eagles. He saw something in my heart, stars perhaps, that I didn't yet grasp myself. He saw a link to the stars, the gateway to the larger perspective, so needed in a world divided. Let me reflect for a moment. Bearheart was a layered human, complex in many ways, perhaps finding simplicity and clarity to balance his complexity enabled him to envision the possibility of a larger identity as he guided Vision Quest. I don't know if he spoke in Creek, Muscogee regularly with others, but he often did with me. He sometimes wrote me notes in his mother tongue. In the early days of the Earth Tribe, he gave me translations of the vision names seekers were receiving in both English and Muscogee Creek. I didn't become experienced in that language, but I learned enough to know that in many ways it was congruent with what I was learning and teaching. It was the auspicious 20th century physicist David Bohm who said, "The verb-oriented language of the indigenous people is the closest I have found to quantum physics." I found that to be true of Bearhart's native tongue. Later, I would write a book called The Mother Tongue that linked ancient wisdom and echo field physics. Until this very moment, I didn't realize its roots went back to the night Bearhart looked at the stars and sang of wings in the sky and the path of the sun. In many ways, it was the lilt of his native tongue that even today inspires and gently guides me. I have my own stories about Bearhart and his native language, but I'd like to ask Glenn Perry if he would come back on and unmute himself, because I've heard Glenn speak about David Bohm, and I'm under the impression that he might have a few words of wisdom for us about this idea of the verb-oriented language of the indigenous people is the closest I have found to quantum physics. I found that to be true of Bearhart's native tongue. I shouldn't say I hate to put you on the spot, because actually I'm not sorry, kind of like the recent advertisement. I'm not sorry to put you on the spot, because
It's okay.
You always have something great to say, whether it's pertinent or not.
Well, thank you, Regina. Well, I'm very blessed to have been part of a dialogue circle that began before I became involved, but it was really in the 1980s. Leroy Little Bear, a Blackfoot elder from the Kainai tribe, lives up in Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada. He knew some physicists, Sam Kanosu, who lived right nearby him, and also David Peat. And David Peat worked with David Bohm quite a bit. And it was Sam Kanosu who told Leroy about David Bohm. Leroy read David Bohm's work and loved it and really wanted to meet the man. And as some of you might know, David Bohm was a junior colleague of Einstein. He was a brilliant physicist, but the United States government expelled him, basically, took away his rights to live in the United States. And so he had been living over in Europe, and but enough time went by that he was permitted to come back from time to time. And when he was coming back, Leroy arranged for a meeting. It was at a place in upstate New York called The Farm. And out of that, it became, David Peat was there also. Out of that came the idea to do a dialogue, bringing together native elders and quantum physicists, other scientists, and linguists. My buddy was Dan Moonhawk Alford. That's how I got involved in it later. But it's absolutely true that in the very first meeting in 1992, which was sponsored by the Fetzer Institute, just like Will Tagle was saying, that's when David Bohm realized how much, well, he realized before that meeting, but that's when he experienced the joy of talking with native elders who got quantum physics, so much so that David Bohm, who was in the last year of his life then, was seen dancing around the fire. And all of this is, that story is told by David Peat in a movie that David Peat produced and his family produced posthumously, because David Peat has passed on the spirit world. You can look that up too. It's true, and I was blessed because the Seed Institute, through my friendship with Dan Moonhawk Alford, then carried on those same dialogues after from 1999 to 2011. And those were called the language of spirituality, and then it was changed to called the language of spirit. We did away with the ooality, and We didn't need that. But anyway, it was a very beautiful thing to be involved in. And really, it does go to the heart of the fact that everything is interconnected, everything is radically interconnected, everything is process, everything is relationship. Inside an atom, there are no longer any things there, which just means that outside of an atom, the things we think we are seeing are somewhat illusory. So it's everything is process, everything is moving, everything is radically interconnected. And I might as well say too, since Bearheart was all about love, everything is underscored or supported by love. That's the force that love is. Love is what connects everything together. Thank you so
Well,
much. Yeah.
thank you, Glenn.
You're welcome.
Glenn he won't give himself an advertisement, but he is writing about love. If you want to write to me, and I don't know if people have my email, but I can turn you on to him that way. Listen, I looked at my cell phone and it looks like we have less than 15 minutes to go. I'd like to know if any of the participants who have been so patient with us have any questions or statements. If you want to unmute yourself.
Regina, I'd
Yes.
like to add one thing, even though I'm a participant, if you will. But
Make it short, make it short.
I
We've
will.
only got 14
But-
minutes.
It's short, but if you want to hear more of Regina's teaching, she's the guest speaker at the Gathering of Circles this year.
Oh,
which
you
will be
can
the
talk all day about that.
I figured you'd let me get started. But Bearheart was our first speaker. We started the group in 1995. In 98, he was the first speaker. He liked it so much because he got to take his grandchildren camping. And then he came back and was the 5 years. So she's continuing that tradition. And she's also doing a workshop. So that is something to think about. It's in the mountains outside of Cloudcroft, New Mexico. Thank you.
Mike, thank you so much for bringing that in. I should have made more notes here. I really appreciate you saying that, Mike. So let's see. I could unmute different people. Hey, Matthew Miller, would you like to say something? Unmute yourself.
Sure.
There's-
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you guys for all of the wisdom and the opportunity to be in this setting and to soak all of this in. I had the opportunity to meet Bearheart, had to have been, I don't know, maybe around 2000, or I guess it would have had to have been before that. I was very young, but I just remember being overwhelmed by his presence. It was like a thunderstorm, everything that he said. And it just brought in an extreme sense of acceptance and love listening to him talk. And yeah, I just want to say thank you all. And I will definitely be there at the gathering, Regina. So thank you for all that you do.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you, Matthew. I'll look forward to connecting with you up there. Let's see. How do, let's see, if anybody wants to raise their hand, I think they can do that.
Yes, Regina, they can raise their hand on the as a function of the under reactions on the bottom of their screen in the Zoom. They can do that, and it shows up like that, like I just did.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, I see. Okay. So
I'm
if
gonna
anybody
unraise mine.
would like to do that, It's not that I don't have anything else to say. I can go for quite a long time here myself, but we do have some time constraints. It is 5:21 and we're supposed to end at 5:30. Bradley, were you thinking about saying something?
Yeah, I was thinking about it. So I'm new to the community, and I've done one vision quest with Mike. It was last September, I guess. And it was rather earth or life-changing, I guess, for me. It happened to rain like 3 days the whole time, and it was this downpour. So it was a real challenge, to do it, but I came out with a lot from that. So I'm a novice, and I'm happy that I was invited to this session, and I'm learning a lot. And I guess to wrap it up for me is the time that I feel most whole, I guess, is when I think back to that solitary moment on the mountaintop, all alone in the dark, pouring rain. I pitched my tent on the side of a mountain on the hill, so the rain was just pouring into my sleeping area. So the challenge of that was, I don't know, it's like it's life-changing. So I find my inner peace when I think about that. And that's all I have to say for now. And
Bradley, thank you so much. That's such an important piece. I mean, you're talking about being connected to nature and the healing qualities that come from nature. That's what some of us, myself, have learned and continue to deepen for ourselves. So what you said is actually profound. Thank you so much.
thank you.
Hey, another Matthew. Matthew, can you unmute yourself?
You mean this, Matthew?
That Matthew there.
Yeah.
This is another spiritual brother of mine, and because he is a musician and a singer, at least he sang over here at my dinner table. Can you think of a thank you or closing song that you could sing to us so that we could close out in a appropriately beautiful way?
I can. I'd like to say something first.
Oh, well, go ahead, but under 30 seconds. No, you got about a minute.
So I just wanted to say that Bearheart, somebody said today the story that Bearheart told that, when there's all these lonely people out there, but their clan is right there on their shoulder. And I really, that's been my experience. I was lonely in my 20s and 30s. And, but I was always having dreams about snakes. And then I would run into snakes. And then I had this real profound experience with a rattlesnake in 2000. And then recently it's been hawks. And anyway, they're here. I've never heard anybody talk about it like that before, but they're here. Just pay attention. And so for today, I think we'll end with this. This is called White Mountain, and it's about going up the White Mountain on your journey to the stars. Yeah, oh, yeah, oh, poo-ah, poo-ah, white, white mountain, yeah, oh, poo-ah, poo-ah, up, up, up I go, yeah, oh, poo-ah, poo-ah, up I go on to yo poo-ah.
Oh, thank you so much, Patricia and Matthew. Thank you so much. And that song, actually, I purposely did not read anything from the end of the book because it is a very surprising happening that happened after Bearheart passed. Somebody who called me, and there's a whole story. It has to do with the stars and Bearhart's son, who passed at 17 in an airplane accident flying into the Philippines wearing the uniform of our country. And so I'd like that to be a surprise for all of you. It's a really beautiful story. So thank you very much. Thank you, Synergetic Press. Thank you, Jerry Patchen. Thank you, SOMOS. I'll be tuning in myself for more SOMOS readings so I can learn how to do it properly. But I think that we had a good time. So I hope we were respectful in many, many ways. And I really appreciate all of you who joined us today, not knowing what you were getting yourself into. So good night and have a beautiful evening.
Thank you, Regina.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Love you.
Here.
Okay.
First to